Hey, welcome back to Good Gym. This is the Rachel and Adam show. We do this each Tuesday at 12:30. If you guys come on here live, we can share comments back and forth, and we can actually respond to you. Keep in mind that Facebook does, for the live, it does keep it at a 45-second delay, so it takes a little bit to see it, and then we'll respond. But anyway, please like, comment, share down below. Let us know what you think. This is Rachel. I'm Adam, and what are we talking about?
We're talking about vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Okay. All right. This is an interesting new thing that we've been doing. I kind of know the topic before we get going. Rachel warned me this morning about what it was, but I don't really prepare. She just gives me a bunch of things, a bunch of talking points while we're in the show. So sometimes, like last time, it led to how we had to not really like a hardcore conflict, but like a disagreement. We had to get through a disagreement. So you see how we do it and the process we use. But anyway, what about vulnerability?
Well, it's mostly about the importance of vulnerability and being vulnerable, being open with how you're feeling in the moment rather than holding back. And yeah, so like how I started it, I asked the question, what do you feel? What would your definition of vulnerability be?
My definition of vulnerability?
Yeah, and then I'll tell you mine.
Well, I don't have that's a good question because I don't have like a super clear defined thing, but when I hear the word vulnerable, like I kind of seize up.
Exactly. So I knew you'd say something like that.
I kind of like, I don't know about that.
This is kind of the thing with, I don't know, we have a lot of conversations about like males and their like how they're having a hard time right now being open and vulnerable.
I think males
in the world
maybe have always had that a little bit. Like,
yeah, but it's more of like talking about it being okay now.
Well, I think there's a time and place.
There's a time and place, but before it's always been like you're vulnerable, you're the P word, or you're weak, or you're soft.
P word.
Like guys call each other pussies.
Oh.
Yeah, don't be a pussy.
Don't be a...
It's like a trigger word for people. Once you're a pussy, you're not a man, or you're not worthy.
Yeah, I mean, young men are just told be a man, and there's no guidance there. It's like be a man. Well, what does that mean? Like, let's get clear. What's this mean to be a man? I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no real clear thing about what it means to be a man, and like I'm not trying to like claim victimhood around the whole being a male thing. Like I really enjoy being a male. I think it's awesome. I would much rather be a male than have a menstrual cycle once a month and have to deal with a lot of the things. I think males on some level are a little bit jealous of females though because we don't get to create life. I have like a lot of ideas around the whole like male-female polarity thing. And some are like well-documented psychological things that we are pretty clear about, and some are like kind of just atom theory. But but the vulnerability thing, I think, is an interesting topic because like there are times to not show vulnerability, and there are times to be vulnerable, and it's not something that I think really just comes natural to most men.
No, because I mean, girls are told it's okay to cry and to show your emotions, and they're better at it naturally. But who knows, maybe if guys were told when they're little, like, stop crying, stop being a pussy, they would be more open to. And the whole reason I wanted to bring up the topic of vulnerability is because I think it's an for some people it's a very hard practice, and to be open and vulnerable is to show people your true colors and let people into you. I mean, to have a connection with someone, the most deep connection that you've ever had with somebody kind of stems from a vulnerable time or a vulnerable conversation. So that's, I mean, on the very basic level, we're all connected in some way.
I think we're talking about a cooperative scenario, right?
Yeah.
We're either talking about like there's a difference between going to war against each other and going to war together. And there's a difference between those two things.
I'm not talking about war. Yeah.
I know, but if any male is watching this, they'll understand that a lot better than. But there's also a time and place where what you're talking about, where it's just like it's you and me, and I almost felt like I was starting a song there. But it's you and me, and we're in this like kind of like I don't know what to call it, but it's like we're doing this sharing thing, not necessarily even verbally, but if you can't be who you really are in front of the person that you're wanting to create this life with, then you're really dampening the level of bond that you could have developed.
It's kind of a mask. You're only getting through like 2 or 3 levels, but there's still certain things that you're not willing to express or divulge in a relationship, and
okay, keep going.
That could be holding you back from being your wholehearted self.
Yeah, but also your vulnerability with you. So like I think everybody's got this, like the front they'll give to everybody. You know, they have this, maybe their top 10 layers are, you know, ogres are like onions, you know, like the shell that you show everybody. You know, like I'm Adam, I got a beard, I got dark hair, I'm tall, I was an athlete, I run a gym, you know, like bam, like this is me. And then you have
anybody can see that from looking at you.
Yeah, then you have the me that Rachel sees. And then there's the me that only I see. And at some point, if you keep on digging down deeper and deeper and deeper, you're going to get to some areas that are very, very scary. That I was terrified when I first started like exploring those areas. And I had to go to this very vulnerable place. I had to get really real with myself to be able to go there. And then, but at the time, like I was going through such a deep, dark, awful period of my life that it was like I felt like I was in hell at that time, like a metaphorical hell. And so I was like, well, I just better keep on going. But then when I was kind of like this weird, like kind of busted through there and kind of started exploring this area of like a metaphorical heaven. And I started, and I could live in there. And then I noticed that I was kind of living all of those layers all at once. And I don't think there's any end to the depth of that layer. I think you just constantly have this like getting to know you and growing who you are. But most people only go their initial level, and then maybe their level that they let a few people see, maybe a couple levels that they let them see, and then they're terrified to see the rest of their layers.
See, and that's the thing. It's like we're weak if we show too much, but I think like the greatest amount of courage, it takes the greatest amount of courage to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
in the right settings.
In like when you look at it backwards, you can't really argue like you're being weak. I mean, that, at our weakest point is when we are most vulnerable to the people around us. But it makes people that much more connected to us. They see us in a different light at that point.
Well, they can relate.
Yeah, that's what I mean by we are all connected. Like our humanness connects us. Our vulnerabilities connect us, because nobody goes through life without a struggle. It's impossible. And for you to put up the front that you don't struggle, like social media does a great job of it.
You mean putting up the front?
The highlight reel. It's like, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and this. But like leaving out all that other stuff is what connects people to you and like draws them in and wants to know more. Because
wait, say that again.
I mean, you can think a picture is pleasing to look at, and that might get people to click on you or like your photos. But for them to follow your story and want to get to know you, you have to put yourself out there. Same in life. You have to put yourself out there in order for them to want to follow your story and get to know you, rather than the outside, the pictures and the, I don't know, just the fake stuff. People like to put only that out there, but that's not what's going to engage.
This is an interesting thing that like how far do you go? Because like there is a point where like being transparent, it just goes a little too far. Like,
you can put way too much out there. I don't need to know what happened
in the bathroom.
Or when people air their dirty laundry out there.
Yeah.
I think that's a different motive. I think that's just screaming for attention. There's a point where you can, in that moment, like, hey, I'm getting a divorce. Screw this person, blah, blah, blah. And it's throwing shame on all of that. But when you just step back and say, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I'm taking this, instead of trying to bash the situation, I think it helps people relate to the situation rather than like trying to give you empathy or scratch your back.
Maybe we should stay away from the whole social media thing, because it can get so judgmental really quick. Like how people, like for me anyway, I don't know. I have very simple guidelines to social media. If it's not educational, entertaining, funny or intriguing, like if it's like this really negative thing, like I just don't put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see the purpose.
Yeah.
If it's anyway, let's say with some social media. So getting to, let's say like, so you've got the going war against each other. That's not a time to show vulnerability, but going to war with each other, that would be a time to connect with each other. Mm-hmm. But I'll say it this way. So like when we were in sports, like the closest I was ever with anybody on a team was during wrestling. And it was because all of us saw each other, not necessarily break, but we saw each other at like where we had nothing left to give. And there was like this weird sort of connection there. And you have it with a lot of different, like I meet certain wrestlers and I'm like there's like a level of understanding there. Mm-hmm. Where like in a wrestling room with all those guys, that, I mean, we pushed ourselves to the point where we were just begging to die. Like, I know that sounds dramatic, but we really were. I mean, the pain.
You basically saw each other
with nothing left,
possibly crying or hurt or whatever. So it's, you created.
Yeah.
Like when you both see each other like that.
You keep saying crying.
Well, I mean, for girls, like it's easy for us to like show our emotions through crying. Guys tend to like show their emotions through getting angry, or I don't know.
I don't think that's emotion. I think that's just getting scared. I don't think I don't think of fear as an emotion. Like getting angry is just
like what
scared.
About when like something's taking over you and like I don't know how to describe it. And
being vulnerable, it to me is more like getting real, like putting your real self out there, your authentic, who you really are. Mm-hmm. Sort of like the whole, what's the point in trying to be different when you could just be yourself?
Yeah.
Thing.
Well, instead of trying to be what you think people want you to be,
right.
You're being who you want to be.
Yeah.
And not having any fear that they'll think lower of you or it'll take away from your status. It's just about doing what feels right to you, not what everybody else is doing. Like the people-pleasing thing. Saying yes to everything, like saying yes to things that you don't want to do. It's not, like if somebody's your true friend, they're not going to get mad if you say no.
They might, but they're not a very good friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have
I think what you're trying to say there is like the whole, like if you say yes to everybody, at some point you're going to say no to yourself.
Yes.
Whereas like a no to somebody else can be a yes to you, and you should get used to saying yes to you as much as no to them at times. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But let's go back to the crying thing, because I think that's interesting. Like girls, it's somehow okay to cry. Males, it's not okay to cry. And I have to agree with both sides.
You have to agree with
males. I don't think
it's not okay to cry.
I don't think everybody needs to agree with me on this, but I think it's ridiculous for dudes to cry sometimes. Like you're going to cry over everything,
but
like
not all times.
I think there's a time and a place. Shut it up, get tough, own it. Physical,
if you're crying,
you're in a baseball game and you get hit in the shin with a baseball.
Well, that's
that
not
hurts.
What I'm saying. I'm saying
wipe that pain off of your face and deal.
Yeah, pain is different than
showing physical pain is completely ridiculous to me. I think that's weak. I think it's pathetic. Like you have physical pain. That doesn't mean that you can't stand up straight. That doesn't mean you have to cry. But someday you're going to be with a very significant person in your life. That young man. If I were to tell that to an 8-year-old, I would very much expect him to do that on a baseball field or a football field or anything like that. You get hurt, you stand up. You stand up straight and you deal with it. You wipe the pain off your face. But in a relationship, someday that little boy's going to be with a significant other, and I hope that he would understand the difference between life and sport. And that would be something for he and I to go over later if he's my son. That was weird to say.
If he was your son.
Yeah, but I think they're two different things. When people start talking about sports or like life, I'm like, never in my life has it ever been okay for like us to put on a bunch of pads and slam into each other as hard as we can, because that's what we did. That's what I did in football. Sports are not like life. I think that's just a ridiculous statement.
No.
But I'm trying to say that there's a time and a place for your tears.
What about an emotional pain? Like it's just coming out, you're being expressive, and you don't even have to be around someone. It's just like it's pouring out of you. What would you call that? I call it emotional pain, I guess. You said you have a problem with the word emotion.
No, when I said anger, I don't think of anger as emotion.
Okay.
I don't think of fear as emotion. I don't think that's an emotion. I think that, and I don't think that that's a matter. Being angry isn't being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. If anything, being anger is a physical expression of fear. You're scared that someone's going to see that you're afraid, that you didn't do good enough, didn't do enough, whatever it was. So you do this physical expression to try to psychologically distance yourself from them, but really it only gave you more of what you didn't want in the first place. So it brought the attention to you because you're throwing a fit. So that's, to me, like, I don't see that as oh, he's getting emotional. No, that's not getting emotional. You're getting scared. I don't think of fear as an emotion.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, the meltdown, the emotional meltdown, I think there's definitely, I don't think that is a vulnerability. I think that's weakness. I think like being vulnerable is being able to, how do I explain that? How do I give an example of this?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But like when you're with when you're with a friend and like you can fart in front of somebody, you're being vulnerable.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of...
I think that's more vulnerable than throwing an emotional
Say you're getting to
bit.
the point where, like, the emotion is so high and you haven't told this person something, and then all of a sudden it's coming... Like, say you're coming out to your parents.
Okay.
You're gay, and all of a sudden it just comes out. And you're expressing it, and it's just like...
Right.
Finally, you can be vulnerable, and you can tell them how you've been feeling, and it just comes out as tears. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
I might even say that's not...
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't know. I think there might be a little bit of a... Mm-hmm. Between the two of us right now on... You're talking in terms of feeling, and I'm talking in terms of thinking. I think that you can think and have emotion at the same time. I don't think that you can think and be scared at the same time. It's very hard to be...
No, I'm saying the opposite of that. Like, being vulnerable is not being scared.
Like, if you're gay
like
and you're coming out to
you're
probably terrified that they're...
Yeah, right before that.
Right? But at the same time, if you objectively think, like, can I do my absolute gut-wrenching best in this moment? And you can be objective in that, and you can express this this portion of you that you know to be accurate. I don't know what to call it. As being gay and attributes. I don't think being gay is a feeling. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's not a feeling. You're just you're saying this is me. You're being your very vulnerable self and like open-hearted.
Yeah.
You're putting everything out there, and I think that courageous act causes it's like a joy, it's like a relief. Like, think of like when you had a deep conversation with somebody and you were just like on a high, like you're just like, wow, I just like let that all out, and it's just out there, and now it's not inside of me, and it's like, it's tears of joy is what I'm saying. It's not like tears of like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. It's like, this is me, and you just, it's like taking off a mask, and all of a sudden you're not like hiding behind it.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think like that's the right. It's
like relief leaving your body.
A guy and I were talking one time, and we were kind of going through. We were talking about like philosophy, and we were getting really deep into some. We were very much don't bullshit a bullshitter, or you get into the conversations like we were having right there. But he goes, Adam, something. I wasn't getting defensive, but we were talking about when people put up. Anyway, he goes, How could you be attacked if you have nothing to defend? I thought that was an interesting question.
Okay.
So like if I don't have anything to defend, what's the point of me defending? If I have nothing to be attacked, then how could you ever defend? Why would I ever get defensive? Why would I ever put up that front? So if I can be extremely vulnerable. knowing that I have nothing to be attacked, then I'm also kind of, not by proxy, but I've also kind of become the least vulnerable person in my space. By becoming vulnerable, you become less vulnerable.
Like willing to take criticism?
Yeah, if you have something to be attacked, then you're vulnerable. If you put up a front, you have something to be attacked. If you put up a front, you're creating a defense before they can get to you, right?
So what about perfectionism? Like,
well, that's just trying to do better than your best.
Well, I think for some people
It's
becomes
set up for failure.
Well, I think for some people it becomes it's not about being perfect. It's not about like striving for greatness. It's almost like a behavior. It's like, if I'm not perfect at this and I can't show that I'm this perfect person, then they'll figure out who I really am and they won't like me for that.
That's some dangerous shit right there. I played that game for a long time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people,
I think that we all do on some level. I don't think that I'm like somehow like I'm so different from everybody else.
You can get really good at being perfect in someone else's eyes, but if it's just to mask how people perceive you and it's hiding something, then it's not about it's not about being a great person. It's about,
I think it was to mask me getting to know me. I think it was like I was scared to get to know who I really am.
That's what I'm saying. Your idea of perfectionism is somebody else's at that point. Like having perfect grades, being a perfect athlete, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean happiness. It means like on paper.
It was a prison sentence.
Yeah, on paper you're perfect, but like I mean.
I mean, like you can look back at my history, and I had I've got all these imperfections leading up to this certain point in my life, and then I had this great impasse, and it was a fantastic thing, finding out that thinking that I was so stupid and that I was different from everybody else, but at the same time, that made me work so much harder. I got straight. Eventually, I was a straight A student. I was captain of every sports team. I played 3 sports in college. I did all this like crazy cool stuff, but it was out of this like crazy obsession to just be good enough to have a friend. And I could you looked at me on paper and you were like, man, this guy's really got it all together. But you look at my social life and I didn't have a friend. I didn't know how to talk to people, and I was like scared to death constantly. I was just like basically almost shaking all the time. Just
because you weren't going to measure up to someone else's idea of perfect.
I don't even know if it was somebody else's, but it was definitely mine.
I don't know. I see that a lot with kids now, like the pressure. Like, don't want to go like too far into it, but like how many people do you see committing suicide that look like they had it all, and then nobody knows why or what happened? They were clearly they were in a struggle. Like, if they thought their life was perfect, they wouldn't have done that, no matter how sad they were. Or I mean, maybe
no, I think it's the other way around. I think you just hit it. No. I think you said it how everybody thinks about it. If their life was perfect, they would have been just fine.
Exactly.
But I think that what they created was what they thought was a perfect life, and they still didn't figure out that this is all that they got their perfect life.
That's what I'm saying. They're measuring up to somebody else's version of perfect.
See, I don't know. I don't think it's somebody else. I think that's the mind trip that everybody tries to do. It's like, no, you're comparing yourself to social media, and that's the social media problem. No, this is an inner game. It's you. It's you versus you. It's not you versus the world. I think I played that for so long. It was not me versus the world. The world was fine. It was me projecting myself against the world and back to me. It was an inner fight.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Anthony Bourdain, and I'm speculating here, but he did this really cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
But he still ends up committing suicide. Conspiracy theorists think there might be another thing there, but maybe Anthony Bourdain's the wrong example.
Or maybe if I do it, I don't know, not say me, but if I do it perfect, I can avoid blame or shame, or like it's trying to put a Band-Aid on a problem.
I think maybe a good way to explain
way bigger than
I think, and I can only speak for myself, right? Everything is anecdotal up to some extent, but I think for me it was this, if I could just do this, if I could just get these grades right, I'll be good enough. If I can start on the football team, I'll be good enough. I never ever wanted to feel that not good enough feeling ever again. And I felt it so often and so many times that it drove me to be something so much different from where I was.
That's where the perfectionist comes. It's like, I can control this. I can get good grades if I try hard enough. I can be a good enough football player if I lift enough. I can do this. I can do this. But the things that you couldn't control, that's what...
Like what?
Like the things that you... I don't know. That's a question for you. Like, you could control your grades in your mind. Like, if you work hard enough...
Oh, yeah.
Then you can achieve this.
Yep.
But there's some things that you can't control. Like how I said before, we all have struggle. We all have disappointment. There's nobody on this planet that has not, like, felt sad at some point.
I hope not.
Or had struggle.
Well, all right. Is it like... I'm going to pick on your words because I
pick on my words. You always do.
But sad is not a negative thing.
No.
Sad's a great thing. If you've never felt sad, how are you going to feel happy? If you never felt, if you've never felt grief, how are you ever going to truly bond with another person?
Yeah.
People who don't know much about grief don't know much about bonding, and bonding is a scary ass deal. Just like grief is a scary ass deal. We go from attachment to separation super fast. No one has attachment.
You can't be grateful for anything if you don't know what it's like to be sad. Mm-hmm. You can't.
It'd be tough.
Yeah. That's like. So practicing gratitude and realizing that you have so much kind of makes the things that you have that much greater. I don't know, if you haven't ever felt any sort of... Like, imagine a person that's never felt sad and then something terrible happens to them. It'd ruin their life.
That would be... I think like just the norm. Like, there has to be ups and downs. If all you did was live on ecstasy all the time and you had this like superficial high going on, and like it's no wonder that drug addicts, when they come off the drugs, come down to regular life and they're like, this sucks, and they want to commit suicide. Like, I would too.
Or they want to go back on drugs.
If this becomes your norm, that's like super super happy all the time, and then you go off of the drugs and you're like, this is regular life. Man, regular life blows. Why would I want to do this? Give me the drugs. You know, I would too. I'd have to completely agree with them. So, like, that's the thing. Like, there has to be these...
ebbs and flows.
These peaks and valleys.
Peaks and valleys, yeah.
But anyway, let's get back to it. What do you have written up there? What do you have about Brad Pitt? I'm pretty sure I have Brad Pitt written down.
I kind of just... This was kind of about, like, the morphing into the person that people want you to be. Because I saw this article the other day and it was like, Brad Pitt morphs into every girlfriend he's ever had, and it showed like all these pictures of them like looking exactly alike.
Okay, well that just kind of happens.
I know, yeah, it happens, but I mean it happens like, that's just like a perfect example of a visual to show it. But we also do that like with our friends, you know what I mean? Like when you have a friend that is into, I don't know, hiking or... Okay.
So where are you making the connection with vulnerability?
I was saying it's being the people pleasers. You're kind of just going with their flow rather than the...
We are all over the place on this show, aren't we?
Well, you just asked me. You just randomly saw Brad Pitt.
I tried to get back on topic. All right.
Don't look at that.
What about...
Don't look at that.
But that's what vulnerability is about. I'm supposed to look at it.
Look at what?
The inner you.
No.
No. All right. Okay. So where are you taking that?
I don't know. You shouldn't have looked at that.
I shouldn't have looked at that. All right. But I do think.
But authenticity and being vulnerable is something that people don't realize. You have to practice that every day as well.
Well, yeah, you get better at
it. You have to make it a choice. It's not going to just come out. Like, you're not just going to wake up one day and be like, want to tell everybody your deepest, darkest secrets.
I don't know if that's totally true, because we can tell people that right now, and I guarantee you that if somebody watches this and they walk down the street and they tell a stranger, hey,
yeah, they're making the choice.
This and this and this and this and this happened last night. They're going to put you in the loony bin, you know? So vulnerability to a certain extent is not
Well, it's like when you drink alcohol, they call it liquid courage. Because vulnerability is courage. It's having the courage to be your true, wholehearted, authentic self. It's like how many times have you had you especially, had like a couple beers and you're just like, whoa, you just want to like, everybody's your friend. Like that's
Are you talking about when
drug.
I don't drink very often.
I know you
period.
don't.
But when I do, I kind of turn into this lovey dude.
Yeah.
Just a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
Everybody's my best friend. It's so dumb.
Uh-huh. So that's what I'm saying. Like you have to make it a choice, and kind of like how I said before.
Wait, why is that connected?
With what?
With the alcohol.
It's liquid courage. I'm saying being authentic and vulnerable is courage.
Because you like give yourself
courage. You have to make it a choice. Being authentic and open to the people around you, you have to make it a choice. It's not easy, like especially in a group full of random strangers, or maybe somebody that you really someone that's really close to you, like a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend. You're not going to just let all your secrets out and put all your cards out in the first date.
Definitely don't do that.
You hold back at least a little bit. But the thing that is going to draw them towards you is getting past those layers.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, you don't want to divulge everything and kind of throw everything at them all at once and just be like, okay, what do you think of me now? But I'm just saying, being a little bit more authentic in your daily practice is going to go a long way in being wholehearted and real with people. It draws people into your story. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what to say because I'm really analyzing all this and I'm consuming it. Why are you looking at me like that? I don't know. Like there's a time and a place to be vulnerable. And there's a time and a place to not be vulnerable. I don't know if it's like, oh, you should just be 100% vulnerable 100% of the time. I definitely think that would be an error.
Yeah.
Even in a relationship
or conversation,
like there is like people who are like, we don't have any secrets, we tell each other everything. I'm like, well, then you're a moron. Like there is a reason to not tell everybody everything. Mm-hmm. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you're not telling everybody everything.
In the book, there's like an entire chapter devoted to this. But if you are
thinking really hard and trying to hold back, for what reason? Just think, what reason am I holding back? Am I holding back because I'm scared? Or am I holding back because they don't need to know that about me? Like, if you are in a moment where you really want to say something and you're not saying it because you're scared, that's the error.
There's so many deeper level issues to what you're talking about, though. Because, like, you can have, like, even in a relationship, like, let's take a relationship real quick. Let's take a girl-guy relationship, just everyday, trivial, like, just no big deal, you know, going along, these two a guy and a girl, and the guy is like, I'm going to be very vulnerable, I'm going to ask her to marry me, I'm going to get over my fear of commitment. Well, that might not be the right time to get vulnerable. Like, that might not be vulnerable.
You're not asking someone to marry you because you're afraid of something. You're not asking them because you haven't gotten to that level in the relationship. I'm saying holding back just because you're afraid is not a good reason to hold back.
Sometimes it is.
But if it's the only reason, like if that's what I'm saying is, if you don't feel like you can be yourself in front of your friends because you're afraid of them seeing you for who you are, then you're never going to get past that.
Yeah, and I'm saying that it's not about your friends, it's about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not your friends.
No, it's totally
you. It's not you being afraid of your friends' judgment.
It's being afraid of.
It's you being afraid of you. It's an inner game.
You don't want them to see you.
It's just like social media isn't about I'm like the comparison game. Social media is about I'm afraid to be me because I don't know who me is. Mm-hmm. That's why I think this whole time I think that's been the confusion there. I don't think it's an external thing. It's an internal game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, when you say, like, oh, you should just be vulnerable with everybody. No. I don't think that's accurate. I think you become extremely vulnerable with yourself, like to a level that is just to a level that is insane, to a level that where you look at yourself and you're just like, I don't know who I am anymore. And then you can start piecing it all back together. But if you don't do that, then you have no business being vulnerable externally. Does this make sense? Like this, I think that's the separation here, is that you're talking about being vulnerable to the world, and I'm saying you need to be so extremely vulnerable with yourself and not vulnerable with the world until you get clear with that.
Well, that's assuming that you're already have been.
But nobody does that.
Yourself.
I mean, like, this is like 1 in 100,000 people.
What do you do to get vulnerable with yourself?
I did a lot of scary shit all by myself, and then I got a coach, and so so originally I was just a very curious person, so I read a lot of books. I read like book after book after book after book after book, and I was like experiencing the same story over and over again. It was like the same relationship with the same girl. They were like amoebas, and the same experience with sports and with anything that I was like wanted to do really well, and I just kept on the same experience. So eventually, I didn't try drugs, but I would be curious to explore those. But I went to a coach, and I was like, help me map my mind. I was like really curious, and so I started doing that. And that led to a lot of really good things. And I kept on reading books, and I'd hire another coach, and keep on going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I went to all these conferences and different stuff like that. And then I also have done the float tank thing to try to get like really clear. I did tons of meditation courses. And like at some point, I think it's very easy. We were talking about this weekend, where it's really easy to get caught up in a loop of chasing the feel good of the self-improvement.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thankful, like, I stopped myself before that became a thing. I was like, no, like, this isn't about chasing the feel-good of the self-improvement. This is about me taking responsibility for mine. Go to these, it wasn't about the coach or the books or the knowledge. It was about the journey. This sounds really cheesy, but the journey within. It was about the internal game. It was like the things that happened during the meditation were like, I would come out of the meditation and be like, holy shit, I have a body. Like, this is weird. I mean, I saw some like weird crap, but it was really cool.
All right.
Abrupt end of the story. And we're back. I don't remember, what were we talking about?
Your journey.
Oh, my journey. I made it kind of an abrupt ending, but that's what happened. Like, it wasn't about the coach. It wasn't about the books. It wasn't about the float tanks. It was about the guts to continually push deeper into me. I don't know quite how to explain that. But it was like this crazy inner journey that took a lot of guts.
Yeah.
But it was about getting vulnerable with me first. Like, I'm not even I don't even consider myself that vulnerable of a person with the outside world. Mm-hmm. I don't. We put a lot of stuff out there on social media, but like most people that met me, they're like, if they were, I'll tell you anything you want if you ask, but I'm not just going to divulge the information without you asking first. But yeah, that's how I did it with me. I just dug into me like ridiculously far, and I continue to do so. This isn't like I'm done.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there.
I don't think I'm ahead. I don't know if there's even like a head or a behind thing. I think everybody's on their own.
I think I have some stuff to. I don't know.
We all do.
Yeah, I know. It's not like I get there and I'm like, I'm here.
I don't think I'll be done when I'm dead.
I'm not to the point where I feel like I can stop growing. I don't think I ever will, but I have a long way to go.
Yeah. I say this a lot when we talk about this kind of thing, but the last second that I'm on Earth, I have a big epiphany. I'm like, no kidding, that's cool.
An aha.
Yeah. But as far as being vulnerable, I don't think it's about being vulnerable with the outside world. You get vulnerable with the outside world, and the outside world is going to stomp you to pieces because you will be actually vulnerable. If you get vulnerable with you to a deep, incredibly extreme level, then you become invulnerable to the outside world.
Okay.
Their perception, because you have nothing to attack at that point. You've explored. You've explored who you are. How could you be attacked if you've already explored everything that you are? You don't have a reason to put up a front. You just are.
All right.
That's like Rachel's like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
I just think it's like something like we're just not very good at opening up, and we're very good at putting up walls and trying to put on fronts, and I think we kind of need to get back to some point where we have the ability to have a conversation with someone and not feel like they're judging us and not be worried about that. It's about having the conversation. It's not about...
I think that's just a human problem that's always been there.
I know, but...
Or that's maybe not a problem, but that's an obstacle. But I think you have to do that with you first.
Exactly. But in practice with that, it's taking those steps and being courageous enough to kind of put it on the table and say, this is me. And
you mean to yourself or to the world?
To the world, to me. Like, it's a practice
yeah,
that
I think this is the disconnect. This is the big disagreement.
Yeah, you're just in your, that's how you see it. But the thing that helps me the most is when I have a conversation with somebody and it's like I put that out there and they don't reject me for it. And
of course.
At the end, I'm just like, well, that wasn't so crazy of me.
No.
This isn't, I'm not weird. This is normal.
Of course.
This is something that everybody feels.
Okay.
And to put me into a category where nobody thinks like this, nobody knows what I'm feeling, nobody cares.
Nobody
knows. No, it's the thing that makes you you, and it's the thing that it kind of draws people in to want to get to know you more. Like, I thought that if they would find things out about me, it would push them away, but really it's drawing them in. It's doing the opposite. It's giving me a chance to express myself truly, and them not truly hate me for it.
We're just on two different topics. See, like, I don't think you should put yourself out there to the world.
You're a lot different than I am, though.
I think, okay, so I'm not saying that, like, too far. I did that too far. So 10% to the world, 90% to you. So, or, like, that's even the wrong way to think about it. Like, you've got to go deep with you before you can ever think about going to the world. So like to me, like, you just explore, internal. You just shove that. You go internal, like, to these, like, you just keep on learning about you, and as you do that, you're going to end up putting a little bit more out there to the world. So you're giving like 10% out there to the world, but like if you think in terms of money, like, you're giving 10 cents back, but you're giving 90 cents to yourself on every dollar. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense at all? But like, if you give 90 to the world and you give 10 to you, you got a big problem there, because you're not really being genuine there. You're projecting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
I think we're. I don't
what
think
do you
there's necessarily.
Guys think? I don't know. That's.
I wish I could find a way to express how. Like, what I'm talking about in the day. I go into this in the cost of courage. I go into it's called the lever. I call it the levels of self. Like, it's like a self-exploration exercise that you can do. And I've never seen it anywhere else. It came to me in a meditation, and I was just like, that's how it is. And and it's like an infinite level exploration that you're never going to get done with. Mm-hmm. But it was like this really weird, trippy. You read that chapter and you're going to be like, this dude does a lot of drugs. And I'm like, no, I've actually never done drugs. I've just gone to some crazy places in my mind.
Yeah, so what do you guys think? Do you understand what he's saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? How do you feel like you should be vulnerable?
Yeah, I think in sports, you, like, in competition, in a competitive scenario, you show no vulnerability. In a cooperative setting, you show vulnerability, and you get real with anything. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, that if you put yourself out there, people are more likely to be attracted to you. But also, if you put all your baggage out there, you're gonna get all the people with the same baggage. Do you really want that, or do you want to tackle your own baggage first?
I mean, this is assuming that you've figured this out, tackled your own baggage, and then you're able to express.
All right, so there we go. So I don't want to assume that.
What do you mean assume?
I don't want to assume that people have already tackled their own baggage. It is
it's me.
I know, but it is so much easier to put yourself out there to the world than to go internal. I guarantee you that externally is
I think it's part of the process.
A million times easier than going internal. This is so much easier than this. It's insane.
Okay.
Going internal is extremely difficult.
Part of the process that you were able to open up and kind of talk about it rather than just only doing it internal. That's not my thing.
But then you have nothing to bounce from. You have no structure to launch from. You have no
form your idea, form how you. I mean, you form your identity based off of your experience in life. I form my identity based off of my experience in life.
Yeah.
So if my experience has been if your experience has been meditation and talking to therapists and going on a deep level,
okay,
that's your experience.
Yeah.
So, at what point do you say, okay, now I can be vulnerable to everyone else?
You don't.
Okay.
Because you solved the inner, because you went inner, you naturally do the external.
Okay.
This doesn't make any sense, does it?
I get what you're saying.
So, a person who, let's take an alcoholic. A person who's an alcoholic is going to reach for booze, right? They're reaching for this external thing to solve an internal problem.
Yeah.
All right. Will that booze ever solve their internal problem?
No.
No, but what will?
Dealing with it, figuring out what the problem is, and
what do you have to do in order to do that?
Going internal and breaking it down and figuring out what the root of the problem is.
And is that super scary and terrifying?
Yeah.
Is that way more terrifying than grabbing the booze or even putting down the booze?
Yeah, but also I think talking to people is kind of, it's therapeutic. It's
sure.
not masking the problem.
But it's so much easier to take yourself to an AA. I guarantee you, it's way easier to take yourself to an AA meeting and say, I'm an alcoholic, than it is to go internal and dig for a source.
But it's part of the process because you're exploring more.
I'm not denying that.
Okay.
But which way is more difficult?
I think doing it yourself is more difficult.
I know. You can get help going internal. You can get guidance going internal, right? Mm-hmm. But you've got to do the work, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's not about doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Or it's not about going it alone. It's about having the courage to confront yourself on your own stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? And that is way more difficult than going external to the booze or to a group session or whatever it is. I'm not saying that those aren't good. I'm saying that is just a tiny little portion compared to what you have to do, the inner work that you have to do. I'm saying that the external pales in comparison to the responsibility you have to take on the inside.
Of course.
So when you say assuming that you've already done all of this work, well, that's assuming that you already built the Empire State Building brick by brick by yourself. Then we can go ahead and we can say then
I'm
you can
saying on a very basic level, say you haven't gone through all of that. Say you're in high school, junior high. You haven't gone through any of that. But trying to be a perfectionist and trying to put up a front and not being vulnerable and real is going to detriment that journey.
Maybe there's a certain amount of I'm kind of just playing contrarian here, but
I think you are. Yeah.
But there's a certain amount of good and bad there. Like the kid who gets picked dead last in dodgeball, and everybody gangs up on him, and he goes home for the summer, and he just practices and does all this stuff to become a great athlete, and then comes back to school and mobs everybody in dodgeball the next year. Was that a positive?
Yeah.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Chronicles of Tinga. That's the first story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying there's pain isn't necessarily a bad thing, is what I'm meaning, and the perfectionist thing might not all be together. The result of the process by which the result happened maybe have been poor with the perfectionist thing, but the progress was great. So if we could switch the process, then maybe we have a better outcome.
Like on the very basic level, I'm saying vulnerability is not like evil. It's like being weak is in the moment is not. There's power in it. It's the most courageous thing you can do in some instances.
Totally.
And feeling ashamed for having that feeling and trying to express it, it shouldn't keep you from keeping it inside, is what I'm saying. You shouldn't feel like you're weaker by expressing a certain part of you.
I get what you're saying.
It's super courageous. It's not easy. It's not like, oh, I feel like I want to divulge all my inner dark secrets. No, it's opposite. I think it's the opposite.
Yes. I would say not 100% of the time though.
All right, ready to wrap it up?
Ready to punch me?
About.
I just think that there's a time and place.
I see. I get it.
A little boy that gets hit in the shin with the ball is the example.
That's not what I'm talking about.
I know you're not, but that's a time, like, you wipe that pain off your face. This isn't a time to cry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. Actually, we had viewers the whole time this time.
Well, this was a weird one, so
good
for you guys.
And I was like, man, I wonder. I kept on looking at that, and I was like, man, this is a weird one. I wonder what's going to happen. And I bet you guys wonder what we're going to talk about after this. But anyway, thanks for being here. Please like, comment, share. Rachel comes on the show every Tuesday at 12:30. Anyway, always leads a really interesting discussion, especially because I think this works. This whole me not only knowing basically the topic. And then her giving me things to talk back and forth about. I don't know. You guys can let us know. What do you think of vulnerability? Put that down in the comments section. We would really like to respond to it next week. But anyway, thanks for being here. See you soon.